Hello. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Amanda. Great to see you, lovely.
Good to see you too.
Hi, Lenore. Great to see you. Nice to have you here, darling. How are you? And lovely Lucy. Hello. Great to see you, love. Thanks for being here, everybody. Let me put you on gallery so I can see all your faces. And who we got? Sarah. Great to see you, love. Where'd she go? She's down the bottom. Hi, Brenda.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
Oh, you're 1 minute late. You're all good.
Yeah, I thought you'd sent me the link, but there was another step, so
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've tried to make it as easy as possible, but
that's all right.
it's been a while since I've run something like this. So I don't know if you saw, but we had some like time conversion problems. A lovely lady was in here an hour ago and she was like, "Where is everybody?" Ah, yes, we had a time change in Australia, didn't we? So yeah, for people in over in America, sorry, I gave you the wrong time. Hi, Belinda, your beautiful new bubba. Oh, she's so gorgeous. How you doing, love? I know you're on silent. That's all good. Hello.
I'm doing well. I'm doing
You're doing
well.
well to be here. I'm
Yeah,
proud of you.
thank you.
Aunt Angie, it was Angie who contacted me an hour ago and said, "Oh, where is everybody?" Thank you very much, Angie. I appreciate that. I feel like daylight savings every year gets me somehow. So let's just get settled in. We've got Jules, welcome. Rochelle, Tara, great to see you. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Jacqueline and Amy. Wow, so many faces. Quite a few new faces as well, which is really, really exciting. So I'm just going to pin myself. There we go. There I'm pinned. Alrighty. So welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I am beyond excited to share what I have today with you. We are here today at the Sacral Sales Queen Training Masterclass workshop. We're going to be delving into the power of unlocking and amplifying your sacral in sales. So there's a lot that we're going to be covering today. If you're here, I dare say you have some basic level of human design. Made that relatively clear. I hope I made that clear enough in my promotion for this. This isn't going to be a basic, what's your type and authority, the basic, we call it like the above line and the below line information in human design. We're not going to be spending that much time talking about the stuff that you can really gather, the information you can gather and generate in the basic, human design reporting softwares. I really specialize in taking human design and applying it to business. And I've specialized even more in sacral business, sacral sales strategy. So I work with lots of people, lots of different types of human design folk, manifestors, and projectors. I have a lot of them in my private containers. And I also really love working in a group space, particularly with sacral people, sacral beings, for many different reasons. One of the big reasons is that, we are all vibing off each other when it comes to human design. And so your undefined centers will be actively plugging into other people's defined centers. And we're always looking for completion. So when we have a group of sacral people coming together to like amplify each other's sacral magic, it's a very, very powerful and profound thing that can happen. Like I like to say, like magic happens. Because we are wired, if you have a sacral definition, you are wired to move very differently to people who have a non-sacral beings, so your projectors and manifestors and reflectors. We move very differently, and we are 75% of the population as well. So we are really living in a sacral world. And for the people who don't have sacral definition, it is their journey to learn how to navigate that in their own path. And I, having worked with lots of non-sacral people, know that that is quite a big journey to decondition the impact of the definition of the sacral center in the world. The sacral center is like the creative powerhouse. And if you have a definition here, if you have a defined sacral, you have so much magnetism and aliveness and creativity to access and to channel into your business if you know how to channel it into your business, if you know how to work with it, if you know how to, yes, of course, wait to respond to your sacral yes, if you know how to activate your respondability, which is what we're going to be talking about today, really powerful concept from Ra, the founder of human design, this notion of respondability. that responding is not a passive thing, it's an active thing. And we can actively work with the mechanics of our auric field to encourage more scenarios, more data basically from the field around us to enter our field so that we have more information to respond to. So it's pretty cool when you start to look at the map of your human design. What gets me off in a major way is then applying that to business, right? Because often we have all of this heady, and let me know if you've experienced this yourself. I have a lot of, and this was my journey up until semi-recently, actually, where I've been learning about human design for a really long time, and I have a defined head and ajna center, so I get really in the intellectualization of it. And it was very intellectualized. It was very heady. It was very conceptual. I could talk about it with my eyes closed. I could really understand. I understood the mechanics of my human design. And there was a very particular moment where it somatically landed for me, where it shifted from being just intellectual knowledge and it actually became applied mastery, applied somatic mastery. And it's for every person who has their journey with human design, it's a different tipping point. You'll have your own tipping point where suddenly it will land for you in a way that it hasn't landed before. And I will be very honest and say straight out of the gate that for me, it was the intersection between the human design and the Gene Keys body of work. And when I really brought those things, those two, which they stem from the same body of work, but they are different. I see the human design system as being like the very masculine framework and the Gene Keys as being like the feminine emotional experience. And when you bring those two together, that's been my experience, and it's been the experience of many of my clients as well. It lands in a way that is felt, that is powerful, that is tangible. So the thing with the sacral center is that if you have a defined sacral and you are still living in your head, you are not in your sacral, basically. A lot of people that I work with who are defined sacrals, generators or manifesting generators, will often say they find it difficult to discern the sacral yes. For some people, that's a very clear signal. They're like, I know what my body is when it's a big fat yes, and I know when it's a big fat no. The next level application of this, though, so you might be living your life really powerfully by your design and, really experimenting. We talk a lot about this notion of experimentation and being in the experiment. So playing with your design and not getting, like I did, too heady about it, like really experimenting with it and starting to see data change in your 3D reality. But how then do we apply all of that to business and to sales and to marketing and to messaging and to conversion and to offer creation and to messaging and to positioning? How do we take all of the brilliance in your chart and directly apply it in a practical, tangible, implementable way so that you suddenly start creating a business that feels like you, basically, that feels like an extension of your authenticity, that feels like an extension of your joy, an extension of, most importantly, a very important word for sacral people is an extension of your aliveness. So typically people start out in business, especially women in the soulful business space. And if you're in my field, you will be in some description, in some way, shape or form, a soulful entrepreneur, meaning that the work you do in your business is a direct extension of your soul's work. I magnetize you guys into my field every single day. And if you work with soul-based business, I'm going to say there's probably a few things that I can say about you that might be true. And that is that you, firstly, are a very magical woman. You do magical things in your business, with your clients, in your life. You facilitate magical results that probably change people's lives in a major way. Results that probably have a profound ripple effect upon the planet. If you really get clear on like the bigger impact of your work, it's pretty profound. And at some stage, we've got more people entering. When we enter into our business, at the beginning, typically we're in full experimentation mode, where we are trying new things and we're not necessarily gripped to, we're not that gripped to the outcome. That's typically the first phase, is that we're testing and measuring and experimenting and we're having fun and we're chucking stuff out there, AKA our sacral is relatively engaged at this point, right? because we have natural energy for it. We don't necessarily need to like extract the energy or force the energy or manufacture the energy, which can happen later in the entrepreneurial journey. And then we might learn a strategy and we might implement the strategy, and maybe the strategy works really well. Maybe we start seeing really good results. And then when it comes time to rinse and repeat the strategy, we go, well, I've done that. Why would I do that again? We might like jump to the next thing. Hands up if you've experienced this. Yeah, I've certainly experienced this many, many times where I've like had really great results with things. And then like, why wouldn't I just stick with the strategy that worked? And I ended up like jumping to the next shiny object thing. I'm going to experiment with Facebook ads, or I'm going to shift into, like a challenge model. We reinvent the wheel over and over and over and over again. And we learn through this journey of reinventing the wheel that the opportunity cost is actually really fucking big, right? But this particular pattern that I see play out a lot with sacral beings doesn't just happen at the start out phase. It happens all the way up, even at women work and people working, making $50,000, $100,000 months. It still happens, right? So it's an interesting phenomenon that I've been really curious about. I'm like, why do we do this as sacral people? Not necessarily, doesn't show up as much with the other non-sacral types. And that's a whole other conversation. But why do we do this? It was very curious to me. So I really started spending a lot of time delving into this phenomenon. And I realized that for us with sacral definition, depending if you have an emotional authority or not, like it's still relevant for you. Your sacral is like the primary motor, right? That charges and fuels your energetics. That charges and fuels your respondability and your capacity to attract information from the field, data, so that you can respond to them. And it's not just a Manny thing either. No, Lucy, it's not. I saw that very, very early on as well. So there's something about, and the reason why this happens is actually very unique for us, depending on what's happening in our profile. But at the crux of it, the sacral, like the mechanics of the sacral, it thrives on this word aliveness. And sometimes aliveness, like often, if we're truly in this state of aliveness, it is non-manufactured, it is innate. And we know what it feels like when we're in this space, right? We feel lit up like a Christmas tree. We feel turned on by what we're doing. We feel like we could like go and go and go and talk about it until the cows come home. And if you've ever been in conversation with someone and they're talking about something they're so passionate about, you feel the pull to that. You feel magnetized to that. You're like, wow, this person has something. It's magnetism. It's aliveness. You might also call it charisma, but it's charge. Ultimately, it's the sacral charge. And so when it comes time to recreating, like implementing strategies at a consistent level and stacking the compound effect, when we're ideally creating, like working with a strategy that is actually seeing results, and we can start to stack it and we can start to see the compound effect in action, amazing things start to happen, right? But what happens for so many sacrals that I flagged earlier is that we don't do that. And we shift from here to there and here to there and here to there. And so how do we actually start to work with the ever-changing landscape of our sacral energy? How do we create a sales system that supports that supports our sacral energy, that supports our sacral potency, that supports the power that we have to channel through our voice, through our energy field, into our business, into the service delivery, into our sales? How do we create a sales system that feels really fucking good, that feels like I could do this with my eyes closed? That is what I'm really passionate about. And that's what we're going to be delving into today. Because ultimately my major belief that I've like ingrained into my subconscious over and over with evidence to support it is that when you build your brand based on your human design and around your human design, you get paid to be you, fully expressed, authentic, wild, kooky, unusual, bold, brave you. And when you build a business that doesn't take your human design into consideration, you will always have the belief that success or wealth or like business growth will come at a cost. And that cost is many and varied. It might be the cost of your authenticity. It might be, building a business where you feel like you have to wear a mask. It might be the cost of your time and your energy and your health. Like very, very, very powerful, the impact between misalignment in work, particularly because for generator types, work is so important to us. I'll preface that and say, I'll take that deeper. Work that we love is so important to us. When we find deep satisfaction through the work that we do, which is the key word for the generator type, I feel satisfied. When we do work that is deeply satisfying, it is life affirming. It gives us more vitality. And then this beautiful cycle regenerates. But it's when we do work, when we're following strategies, when we're doing what my coach told me to do. I paid them $20,000, so I have to do what they say. So I get the work, I get the results. And it's not aligned with us. We take on strategies and, tactics that aren't aligned, and it creates this internal friction, this internal frustration, which is the flag emotion that you are in a misaligned state. We feel that very viscerally. We feel the frustration and the satisfaction viscerally. It's a visceral charge in our somatics, in our somatic landscape. And I often like to equate, this visualization with frustration. It's like if you have a round peg and if you have a square peg and you're trying to jam it into that round hole, and you have to use your brunt force to get it into the fucking hole. Like that's frustration to me in a bottle, right? And it comes from this energy of forcing. Because as generator and manifesting generators, we have a lot of energy to give. If you have the 34th gate defined in your sacral, you will experience, we all experience it because we have all of them. You will experience the shadow of that, which is force, which is this in a nutshell. I will force my way upon the world until I get what I want. And I will penetrate the world with the force of my energy and the force of my field. And it can be very, very taxing and overwhelming and destructive to the body. So this is one of the major things that we need to be mindful of as generator types, that when we are in alignment with what we are doing, it is life affirming. It is easeful. It is the equivalent to swimming with the current down the river. And if you've ever swam up against the current in direct contrast, you know how much energy it takes. You know how much force and energy it takes to get into that direction, to move against the current. Whereas I've seen some beautiful memes recently of it's, I don't know if they're AI generated, but there's a massive flood and there's just someone sitting there on their couch, and they're just getting taken by the water, having the best time. And I think that's a really great example, great visual of what it feels like when you are in the slipstream of your sacral magic. Who's experienced it before? You are in the slipstream of life and it's like, wow, things start happening. Things start happening everywhere. Camilla, 34 is my purpose. I just saw your message before. Yes, I have that. It's my purpose in the Gene Key. So I know this one so well. So let's take a breath and just close our eyes for a moment, shall we? And let's get into the somatics for a minute. I'd love for you just to feel, if you close your eyes, feel the difference between your energy, like your body is tilted off the chair a little bit and your jaw is clenched. Maybe you're up on your tippy toes with your feet and your breath is shallow and your shoulders are up around your ears and your head feels very dense. You might be breathing really quickly and feeling the difference between literally changing your physiology and sitting back into the seat of your sacral, putting your feet flat on the floor, relaxing the jaw, sitting back in the pelvic bowl, Placing a hand on your belly, or the hara or the sacral, lots of different terms for this incredible area. And breathing down into that space. This is your motor center, one of your most powerful motor centers. And when you are creating a system for your sales and your business, your scaling that honors this place, it's very difficult to actually find yourself in a state of that original posture, clenched jaw, unless you're really, really challenged by it. So I want you to imagine, as with your eyes closed and your hands on your belly, one of your favorite clients, one of your clients that you have just loved working with. It's like soulmate client in a nutshell. If you could bottle and replicate this person 100 times, you would be so happy. And just feel the activation that bringing that person into your consciousness does to your body. It like activates you in a major way, right? Like you feel you've got energy for this person. I have vitality for this person. I have aliveness and excitement and joy. This person is life affirming and life giving. And then think about someone that you really did not enjoy working with, like the antithesis of a soulmate client. And how that changes your physiology, your somatics. And maybe there was a moment when you actually knew your intuition or your sacral was like, no, this person is a no. And you overrode it because maybe you needed the money, or maybe they were available and they were willing and you could help them, but you overrode that. And the difference that has on your energy, on your aliveness. This is the beginning of this energy of frustration. And for manifesting generators, it can actually morph into like anger. Like, I do not want to be in this person's energy. I don't want to work with this person. And the thing is, you can open your eyes. And the thing is that all of the modern day sales tactics that we get taught actually go in direct contrast to the sacral strategy of responding to your sacral yes. Especially when we're looking at a lot of the old school tactics that probably many of you learned, and you may have even learned from people that you really respected, people that you loved. I know I certainly did. I know I taught some of these strategies. And I had a moment a few years ago when I was like, oh, shit. It was a really uncomfortable moment. I was like, I don't like the body of work that I created in 2020 or 2018. I do not resonate with it at all anymore. We've been taught to sell like manifestors, basically, to initiate, to push, to direct our energy into the field. And at the shadow level, this often looks like convincing and, NLPing people into saying yes when they're not really a yes, and maybe you're not even really a yes. But you have all of these tactics and you have all of these strategies, and they work if you push them enough, right? But then you end up with clients that aren't a fit, and you end up with a business that isn't a fit. And so being aware of the strategies that you've taken on, we're going to have a look in a minute at like how we do that at an energetic level, and the belief systems that you've taken on from the marketplace, from the industry at large, is very important. So a lot of these strategies around creating false urgency, around not taking no for an answer, around, following up with people until they buy or until they get really fucking angry, about overcoming every single objection, around like the importance of making the sale even if the client isn't a real fit. I dare say for so many of you, you've been in the friction of this particular paradigm as the marketplace is really changing and evolving. And I know this is not a new conversation at the moment. This year seems to be the year that the marketplace, it became a lot more sophisticated. I've worked with many clients who were had really successful businesses even 2 years ago. And then all of a sudden, things changed in a major way. People weren't buying as quickly as they used to. They were asking more questions. They were being more hesitant. And if you could, like if you had the skill set to push and to force and all of that, like, yeah, you could wrangle the sale, but at what cost? At what cost? When we do that and our sacral shuts down, then we have to manufacture the energy out of this energy of obligation. So obligation is a really, really important flag word here. When you're not doing something because if you've committed to something that your sacral is not a yes for, and this is particularly important if you are an emotional authority and if you haven't learned how to really distinguish between what are the things that I need to run, what are the decisions that I need to run through my emotional wave versus what are the decisions that I can make in the moment based off my sacral yes or no. And this is quite an important distinction, quite an important conversation to have. Emotional authority is typically about 50%. So the way that I like to look at it is that, yes, I'm emotional authority as well. The way that I like to look at it is that for the big life-changing decisions, like big decisions that are going to have a big impact on me, I like to move them through my emotional wave. You know, am I going to invest a high ticket with this client, with this coach? Am I going to move state? Am I going to buy a house? Am I going to, I haven't had to do this, but am I going to leave my partner? Luckily, that's not a decision I've had to move through my wave. Am I going to move to a different country? Absolutely. Do I feel like tea or coffee? Don't need to move it through an emotional wave. So how do we take this and apply it to sales, right? I'm of the belief that when it comes to sales, particularly when you are in the sales seat, the seat of the sale, the facilitator of the sale, that you don't necessarily need your emotional wave. You don't need to take every single client. Do I want to work with them? Yes or no? I'll get back to you in 3 days and move it through your emotional wave and come back to it. I don't do that because my sacral typically knows in the moment if that person is a yes or a no. And then it's up to me to honor that and to trust it. And if I say yes to working with someone who my sacral is, then suddenly I'm in obligation territory where I'm obliged and I feel like I don't have as much power around it. And I feel like I don't have as much aliveness around it. And so, yeah, of course, every session is going to feel like I'm dragging myself through quicksand. So like a great thing to do, and I highly encourage you to do it, is to run your whole business through the obligation audit. Where have I said yes to people, to strategies, to mentors, to tactics, to branding decisions, to offerings out of obligation? Or I said yes, but then I changed my mind. You're allowed to change your mind, particularly if you're a manifesting generator, particularly if you're an emotional authority. It's okay to change your mind, right? So this is one of the most important things, like from a checklist perspective, to do, to understand what's the conditioning I've taken on in my business from the industry, from the marketplace, from past coaches and mentors. What are the beliefs that I've taken on about sales, about business growth, about serving, about scaling that I believe to be true, but maybe they're not true about me? And how can I start this process of like deconstructing my current sales environment so that I can create a new one? That's what I'm really passionate about, and that's what we're really delving into. So let's have a look at some charts to start to just delve into the differences here, shall we? I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm going to share some case studies with you. One sec. Oh. Okay. So all of these are clients. I have removed their information out of their privacy, and I have their permission from all of them to share their charts with you. What I want to talk about are the differences between what it means to be a manifesting generator, firstly, versus what it means to be a generator in a sales conversation, like through the perspective of sales, because it has a really quite a big difference. So Manigen, this person is a Manigen. We can tell because they have a throat channel connected to their motor, to a motor center. In this case, it is their solar plexus, their sacral. When you have a throat center connected to a motor center, it means that it's fueling our throat center with that motor, with the energy of manifestation, right? Now, if you are, say, for example, a generator that doesn't have a defined throat center, or that doesn't have a throat center connected to a motor, doesn't mean that you're not geared for manifestation. It just means that you do it in a very different way, okay? So when we're looking at the Manifestor chart and when we're thinking about applying it to sales, firstly, the first thing I love to do is to get really clear on the overall energy of the chart, okay? So if I'm looking at this chart, what are the first things that I notice? First thing that I might notice might be, wow, look at all of this activation here in the spleen center, like nearly every single gate defined. That means huge amounts of intuitive potency, intuitive potential. This person will know things in the moment, but it's a different kind of knowing to the sacral. The sacral is like, yes, I have energy and aliveness for this. No, I don't have energy and aliveness for this. It's like a very yes, no, which is why we say with generators, yes, no questions are really good for us because it gets us in our sacral and it comes out through our voice, right? Yeah, that sounds really good. No, oh, no, thanks. So my first port of inquiry is like, wow, I wonder how the spleen, so much activation in the spleen center, and also being a sacral definition, but then also having an emotional authority that takes time to come to clarity. I wonder how that's playing out at the moment through a sales perspective, because I look at that, I'm like, that would be a very curious combination. So how do we honor the sacral? Yes, no. At the same time as placing emphasis on the splenic intuitive power. And of course, at the lower frequency, the spleen can be thrown off a lot by fear. So how do I learn the difference between what is like my fear speaking and what is my intuition speaking? We have a throat center that's connected to the sacral. So this person is designed to speak from their sacral. And if you have a throat center defined, very powerful to look at what center it's connected to through the channel and what that channel is, because that's going to give you a lot of information about how you're designed to speak. So someone who has a throat center connected to the sacral, which this is the classic manifesting generator channel. Not all Mani-Gens have it, but a lot, this is all about speaking from power, right? So the 20th gene key or the 20th gate here is the power of presence in the moment, in the now, whereas the 34 is power, right? So it's power in the now. So when I'm really in alignment, if I was this person, and I have this chart, this channel, so I can speak to it. If I was really in in the high frequency of this particular channel in my sales system, in my sales process, it's a very powerful experience for the person on the other side. As long as I'm not falling into the shadow of forcing myself onto the conversation, trying to control the conversation, trying to direct and not sitting back into the seat of my sacral, of my receivership, right? When it comes to sales conversations, one of the most powerful signals of this that I have flagged in my brain is literally my posture. If I'm sitting on a call like this, with my head leading on a sales call particularly, okay, time to take a breath, time to sit back into the seat of my sacral, because the head gets when the head comes online, this person has an undefined head and ajna center, which means that they can very easily spin off into analysis paralysis and overthinking and, going into their head, disconnecting from their body and shooting up into their head through the low frequency, right? In the high frequency, it means, especially with an undefined or purely open head center, that they can channel through incredible information. And they can, if they're in the environment of someone who has a defined head and ajna center, they can literally plug in. And sometimes it's like, wow, how did you know I was thinking that? So it's very powerful to understand what definition you have. Definition meaning the different gates and centers that are colored, right? When we have lots of non-definition of open centers or white centers, then there's a lot of sensitivity to our environment. So I like to say that the world feels you through your definition, but you feel the world through your openness. So your definition is your consistent you energy shooting out into the world. Whereas your open centers is you bringing the world in through your openness and ideally amplifying it and sending it back. But of course, we don't get taught how to do that, right? How to discern what's mine and what's not mine. How to discern, is this my mom's story that I'm repeating now, or is it actually my belief? So when it comes to sales conversations, it's really important to be very aware of your undefined centers and how they put, and whether or not you've like done really powerful deconditioning work there, or whether they still come up to kind of, you know, they still bubble up to the surface. For example, this person here has an undefined heart ego center. Now, this is a tricky one in business, right? Because for the defined folk, the heart ego center is all about like healthy ego. It's all about knowing yourself, knowing your self-worth, knowing what you bring. It's very like there's a lot of gates in there around money and around leadership and around like really being in control of that energy in a high frequency in a really powerful way. But when this is undefined, it's very easy to start people pleasing, to start doing anything you can to have the person say yes, including discounting your programs, including, you know, creating bespoke things at the last minute just because the person said yes and I really need the sale and I really want the sale and I'm going to pretzel myself and my offerings to kind of wrangle them into saying yes. Really, really powerful to see your undefined gates, centers rather, and know how they show up for you in sales conversations. This person also has the undefined root center, which is a very big, powerful one. If you have an undefined root, you might recognize this pattern of needing a last-minute cortisol hit to get you into action so that you can do the thing. So this is the classic, I'm going to wait till the last minute before I write my essay. I'm going to stay up until 4 a.m. the night before, and I'm going to slide it in at the last minute because I need, at that lower frequency, I need that cortisol hit to get me into action. I know because I have this undefined in my chart as well. And I used to say that my creativity comes online in the most powerful ways when I have a deadline. But really, it's about manufacturing that stress, the stress that gets me into action. So if I'm on a sales call and I know this about myself, I have to be really mindful not to weave in unconsciously any pressure, any unnecessary pressure onto the person. Timing pressure to make a decision right now, especially if there's like certain hesitation there, or, you know, if there's objections that you consciously need to meet and need to speak into, it's important to know. Then we have the undefined spleen center here. This is a very powerful one related to fear. So if there's fear that comes up in the conversation around, wow, can I really invest that? Like the last time I invested at that level, I didn't get the result that I wanted. And now maybe I don't trust myself as much. Now maybe I don't trust other coaches as much. And that's a real hesitation. That's a real thing for me. And so how comfortable are you to actually sit in that conversation with your person? Be like, I get it. I really get it. Tell me more about that. I want to hear all of your hesitations. Tell me about it. Let's unpack it. Let's explore it. Let's bring it into the light. But often what we do is we kind of avoid and we resist and we turn away because we're trying to avoid confrontation. This is also a big one if you have an undefined solar plexus, emotional center, where you might want to just like, I don't want to go there, you know, just I feel uncomfortable talking about their objections. If someone says, no, I can't afford it, I'm like, okay, I totally get it. That's fine. So this is a real distinction here between not like manipulating someone into saying yes on a sales call, but also like having the gumption, the courage to say, tell me more about that and let's unpack it and let's look at it and let's bring it into the light. And I'm not going to like NLP my way into you like, well, okay, I guess I'll do it. But I can have a really powerful, game-changing conversation with my prospect about the power of this work and the power of them being resourceful, especially if I wholeheartedly believe that if this person is a true soulmate client, and if they come into my field, if I come into their field, together we're going to create magic. And I have full-bodied certainty and clarity that my work is going to change their life. So then, yeah, I'm going to help you be resourceful, because I know that this work is going to be profound for you. I'm going to ask you about what resources you have available and you have access to. And I'm going to help you strategize different ways. If you have an undefined throat center, this person is a generator with an undefined throat, you need to be really mindful of like filling the silence with unnecessary words. People who have undefined throat centers, they do very well when they're in conversation with different people, because they're kind of piggybacking. It's like a tennis game, right? Rather than full transmission. And so if you're on a sales call, and the downside to that though, is that it can be very difficult for someone with an undefined throat center, if they're in the low frequency, to actually be comfortable with silence, because they're always rushing to fill it, always talking a lot, right? Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, they don't talk much at all. So if you have an undefined throat center, then it's really important to know the power of silence and the power of letting someone sit. And especially in a sales call, it's very different when you're in a coaching or a therapeutic session with someone where you're really in your genius, right? You're in your flow. Sales calls are a totally different kettle of fish, because we're literally taking someone through a process of, unpacking a lot of really powerful things about what's not working in their life and what they want, their desire. And we're helping them bridge where they are now with where they want to be, with our offering, with our program, our transformational work. And that we're making that offer and we're saying, the price of this investment is $15,000. Can I just take a breath and lean back and let it land? Or do I say, but I can do payment plans and I can, if we can work it out, and I've got discounts and there's lots of different things that I can do to help this to work for you, particularly if you have an open ego and an open throat. That's a really important one to be aware of. The power of silence in a sales call can't be underestimated, because when someone is silent in held presence, and especially when something big is landing for them, and it might be wow, this is a high ticket investment, I'm going to say yes to myself in a way that maybe I never have. Okay, I really want to take that in. I want to let that land. So the power of deconditioning the throat center so that you can actually sit back and be comfortable with their reaction, with how that lands, knowing that is their trigger or that is their response. And you are simply here holding the energy of what's possible for them. So if you have an undefined head and ajna center, it's very important to be aware of how you're going to be potentially overthinking, overanalyzing on a call, right? Hyper-analyzing, hyper-thinking, or even getting confused, losing yourself in the conversation, allowing stress to kind of disconnect you from your body, like the stress, the adrenaline of a sales call, because it can be nervous, right? When you're on a sales call with someone, it's a totally different beast altogether. And actually, so coming back down to the body. And when we're talking about sacral sales, we need to be in our somatic body. We need to be in the body. If you're up in the mind, if you're in human design, we say you're not self, which is your low frequency of your undefined centers. You're not self. It's not your truth. And a lot of marketing these days actually panders to that, panders to the not self, panders to the nervous system activation. So rather than all of these techniques and tactics and strategies which do that, how can I instead invite someone's whole body yes to the table? How can I remember that a sales conversation is a conversation? It's not a performance. And it can be if you've got lots of scripts that you follow. You're reading the whole time and you're not really present with the client. Scripts are important in the beginning because it gives you the bones of a conversion conversation. But then there comes a point where you have to let the scripts go and trust that you know enough. Trust that at the end of the day, This is two people in conversation with each other. And their yes matches your yes. And this is the difference here, okay? So sometimes there's a big conversation that I love to have with my clients. It comes up quite a lot. And it's around, how do I know if something's just not aligned for me from a human design perspective versus I'm avoiding, or I'm procrastinating, or I'm sabotaging? How do I discern the difference there? It's a really, really important conversation to have, how it shows up with the sacral. Because sometimes the sacral will invite you to do things that make you want to legit throw up, right? If you have a body of work and, you know, you love it, but there's something about it that's just not gelling. You have a program, there's something about it that's just not gelling. And you get into the minutiae of what that is so that you can bring all of your sacral aliveness on board. And your sacral says, it's currently $5,000 and it has to be 10. I have to double the price. And you're like, what? Maybe I can just do it incrementally. Maybe I can just sell 3 at 6,000 and another 3 at 9,000 and then finally make my way there. But your sacral is like, no, it's got to be 10,000. I know what I put into my clients. I know what I put into my offers. I know what I put into my containers. If I'm going to feel sacrally alive and like fucking turned on by this program and like turned on by the idea of delivering it, I want to feel like I'm being divinely compensated to the amount that I want, and that's 10,000. So you know now that your body is saying, yes, that's the price. But then does the head try to kick in and, you know, do its thing? When you're on a sales call, does the open ego or the open throat try and kick in and go, you said it's going to be 10, but for you, I'm going to make it 7. You know, what is our MO when it comes to our sales process? What is our conditioning versus what is our truth? And these are really, really important conversations to have. Because when you're creating a sales process in alignment with your sacral, you need to understand how to discern the difference between fear and just sacral, yes, but like my nervous system needs to catch up. Or procrastination and sabotage. And this is your next level. Do you have the guts and the courage and the bravery to rise to it? And I'll say it before, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you don't, and you keep playing under the limit that your sacral is asking you to play at, then you're in obligation territory. I'm doing it because I have to, not because I want to. Not because I'm fueled with energy and aliveness for it. I'm doing it because I played it safe. And I know that I played it safe, and it doesn't, like, it's not going to cut it for me. So I'd love for you to take a moment and think about how in your business currently, how much of it are you playing safe? How much are you playing safe of? How much are you playing safe in your business at the moment? How much are you allowing your non-defined centers to rule the roost? The low frequency, the conditioning, the stories that you've taken on that you're actually like, that's not even mine. That's not even my belief. And it's really powerful to look at. What I love about human design is that it gives you a map that when you know how to deconstruct it, when you know how to understand it and apply it to sales, like you have the map right there. Now it just becomes, do I have the courage to commit to it? Can I cultivate consistency even if I struggle with consistency? Can I see it through to the finish line? Or do I kind of waver at the 75% and like default back to my default settings? And the consistency conversation is a big one, right? Because some of us are designed for consistency and some of us aren't. So generators typically have a lot more capacity for consistency if they're doing work that they love, that they're really like, it's life affirming. You guys can really get in there and roll your sleeves up and it's mastery development with generators. Whereas with manifesting generators, we can often be more what we call non-linear. I say we because I am one, non-linear. So we don't do things like all of the other types. We jump from A to B to Z to D, And to everyone else, we can look really crazy, but to us, that's our genius. So how do I create a sales system that honors that? Right? So generators typically do very well with like one or two programs that they create mastery around, and they refine and they go deep rather than wide. Whereas manifesting generators do quite well with multiple offers in their offer suite. And like, as long as you're clear about it for a manifesting generator, if you're clear about your ecosystem, even if you have multiple different offers, you're selling different things, you're doing the classic manifesting generator juggle where you've got all of the spinning plates up in the air and you're in your flow, then your people will get it. But it's when you're not clear about it, about how everything connects to one to the other, about how all of your offers talk to each other, about who your programs are really for and what makes them different. If you're not clear on those things, then your clients won't be clear either. So you have to go first with that. Whereas the generator can be very steady and very consistent. But the generator, and manifesting generators, this can happen to as well, but the generator will often hit what we call the generator plateau, and it happens more for the generator than the manifesting generator, purely because the mani-gens are always moving and always kind of experimenting, and they're really in that non-linear creation process. Whereas for the generator, if you hit a generator plateau, it's kind of like your sacral has come to the end of its iteration for that project, that for that time, that moment in time. Doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't going to generate more sacral activation for it, but it means that you need to go through a process of rebooting. But for some people, when they're in a plateau, they get in their head and they make a whole lot of stories about it. I failed. It's not working. I need to burn it all down. I need to start it again. But it's just a plateau. And if you can get through the plateau, you're going to have another surge of energy. You're going to have another surge of that sacral activation to keep things moving. Now, one of the things that I haven't spoken about, which is really important, is the importance of moving your body as a sacral person. And sometimes when we are in a plateau, whether that's the generator plateau or the manifesting generator lull, like lull of inspiration, can be energetically quite different. I've wired my subconscious now to be like, I need to move my body because the sacral is so in action, right? Get out, go for a run, go do some yoga, go make love with your partner, go for a dance, go for a bushwalk, submerge in the ocean, move your state, move your physiology. And that's going to help get that sacral respondability happening again. So when we're talking about respondability, we want to look at the sacral gates and we want to really discern what are the activated gates inside the sacral. And this is going to give us some really powerful information about how this particular sacral person is wired to respond. Okay, the different gates that are activated in the sacral. See, this person has the 59 and the 34. They will tell us a lot of information about how this person is wired to respond and how they can open their field to attract more data, more information in, so they can respond, like they can discern, do I have a sacral yes or a no for this? So for this person, for example, the 59th gate is activated, and the 59th gate is the gate of intimacy. Intimacy is very important for someone who has this particular, and for this person, it's their conscious sun as well. So it's even more important for them. So intimacy, creating intimate spaces, creating opportunities for people to feel you, to feel how you work, to feel how you function, creating opportunities for them to come into your space, right? So something like this, as an example, is a great way of creating an intimate environment for people to be in your space, to feel you. So you're putting information out for them to actually, yes, I've got sacral yes to that. I have a no to that. The more data there is to respond to, the more opportunities you have, right? You can call it respond hacking, basically. It's the same. There's another strategy for projectors, invitation hacking, creating the environment to have more things to respond to or more invitations to respond to. The 34th, this person also has the 34th gate activated here as well. And so that is all about power. It's all about cultivating presence and power in the moment. So how can I invite someone into my space so they can feel with intimacy, they can have a sense of me, they can have a sense of who I am, they can feel my aliveness, they can feel my power and my potency, and I can make an invitation for them to take the next level of work with me if they're feeling that, like, this person is my person. I want to know more about how they work and what they do. I'm going to invite them into an opportunity to learn that. So a great thing to do is to look at your sacral gates. And if you stay to the end and you do me a little testimonial, I will create for you your own sacral sales strategy report, which is where I actually unpack this for you in a 20-page report. But to look at the gates and to understand the frequencies and how can I work with those frequencies to activate my respondability. And when I'm in full respondability mode, the generator aura is open and enveloping. That's how it works by nature. Like a giant energetic bear hug when you're in alignment with that person, right? And so your auric field can actually do a lot of the heavy lifting for you in your sales process, in your marketing, in your conversion. As long as you are practicing this action of opening your field to allow more respondability opportunities in, so people can feel that open, enveloping sensation of being like energetically bear hugged by you. So I'm going to take a breath. We're going to do questions in a sec. One thing that we haven't spoken about is the power of understanding how your motivation and your environment actually can create the conditions for you and your business that are conducive to sales and profitability and sacral sales, right? Like sacrally aligned sales. So what we're looking at over here, motivation, environment. So we'll start with environment. This client here is a great example. So this particular client was an actress, and all through high school and through her early 20s, she was on stage, she was performing, she went to NIDA. She was really on that path to becoming a famous actress. She went to the United States. She was like really going down that pathway to become an actress. And she realized that she'd created her whole acting like lifelong dream based out of this inherent belief that she needed external validation, right? And so she realized there was a point when she was in America, and she told me this recently. She realized that, like, okay, so if I continue down this path, I'm going to literally become potentially quite famous, but it's coming from that space of like, I don't feel whole within myself, and I need external validation from, the masses at large to help me feel whole again. So as this person then transitioned into business and developed their own offerings, she was like, well, I should be on stages. I should be speaking to the masses. I was on stage for the first half of my life. Why am I so resistant to going really big with my business in this way? That was her thing. She was like, I want to speak on stage, but then she could never get herself there. It never happened organically. There was never the internal aliveness and that internal desire to really speak on stage. And when we delved into her environment is kitchens. And that's going to sound weird at first, but with a kitchen's environment, that she thrives in a space of transformation where there's imagine a kitchen table, right? Where people are gathered. It's not a huge amount of people. It's relatively intimate. They are gathered in this intimate way, and they're experimenting with different ingredients, and they're bringing transformation out. That's the area that she thrives in, with this wet, warm, moist, smells and all of the different flavors combined together from a business and sales perspective. If, for example, she had valleys as her environment, this person does down here, I'm pretty sure, yes. Valleys is all about broadcasting your voice far and wide. It's all about literally standing on the peak, standing at the side of the mountain and speaking down into the valley so that people can hear you. It's all about acoustics. It's all about sound. It's all about frequency. It's all about creating the environment for people to hear and feel you at that frequency level, which is very interesting for this particular client because she has an undefined throat center. So how does that particular thing play out? It's a story for another day. So we've done a lot of work around that. So for this particular client, she realized, well, and also when we have the line 2 here, she's a 2-5, conscious hermit, unconscious heretic. Basically, the 2 is it thrives in its own hermiting time. And the 2 line can be very insular, be very creative, but it can also be very internal. Whereas the line 5 is leadership, is here to be a leader, to provide solutions, to challenge the norm, to disrupt the status quo. So for this particular client, she's really felt that like the friction there between literally being the polar opposites, the 2 and the 4. If you have a 2-4 in your profile, it's quite similar as well, except the 5 is literally takes it to that next level because it's all about leadership, not just networking, being around community. So when she realized that that line 2 combined with this energy of her environment around kitchens and thriving in like these spaces of alchemy and cooking and bringing all of these different things together, it really made it land for her that she's actually not wired to speak on stage. And that's why it hadn't naturally, organically happened. When I met this person, this client, she was at a real turning point. She was like at that point, at that precipice point where like, you know, the decisions you make in business at this point can have a big impact, right? She was making about $7,000 to $8,000 a month average in monthly recurring revenue. She was really ready to take it big. She wanted like, you know, the $40,000, $50,000 a month. She had a big mission. She wanted to take it large. She wanted to support her family in a bigger way. And she just went and gone and had a photo shoot that was like really professional, you know, this really professional photo shoot. She had a suit on, she had her heels, she had the red lipstick, and she was making a decision between whether she would work with me or whether she would work with another very famous mentor in the industry who's all about like power diva. She's all about like, you know, she's very different energy, very different frequency to me. And she realized that this particular body of work that I was, you know, proposing to her, all about uncovering her human design, creating her business in alignment with her design, meant that she could actually create a business that felt like her, that felt like play, that felt like joy, that felt like aliveness, rather than take on another body of work that was teaching tactics that she didn't really appreciate, she didn't really resonate with. And it was all about performance. It was all about looking a certain way, saying a certain thing, like having the right posture, the right positioning that's attracting in the corporate clients. It was a completely different thing. And when we got into her motivation, we realized she has innocence as her motivation, which means that she needs to be like her inner child needs to lead her business. She must be in full creative mode, in full play. She has to feel like her authentic self. Otherwise, it's going to feel like she's wearing a mask. And she built a whole business potentially down this other timeline, could have built a whole business around a personality that wasn't really her, you know, wasn't really part of what she was here to do. So it's very powerful to understand how our motivation is like, our environment is like the place, the conditions that we need to create around us so that we can thrive. Whereas our motivation is like the why behind why I do what I do. Why do I create my brand in this way? Why do I build my message and my visuals and my offerings in this way? Because I want it to feel like play. Or if you have desire like me, because I want it to feel like my heart's desire is singing, is absolutely coming alive. So it's all there. And it's not necessarily about not having the right strategy when it comes to scaling and, you know, growing and scaling your business. Often we think it's a strategy problem. It's actually not. It's a sacral strategy problem, right? We haven't figured out how to create a strategy that turns our sacral on again and again and again and again and again and again. And it doesn't mean that we rinse and repeat the same strategy. Often it means that we need to adapt and we need to flex. But yeah, if the strategy is working and your sacral is still alive to it, like we don't need to burn the whole thing down. just so we can have that sacral hit all over again. Does that make sense? Something that it's a pattern that I see lots of people experiencing with the sacral definition. And ultimately, when we can see our sacral center as a burner for creativity and for aliveness and for magnetism, and when it's engaged, we feel it very somatically, very viscerally. We understand when it's engaged versus when it's not. And so the trick then is often, am I letting my head override me? And isn't there a word for that? Like my head's going to gaslight what my body is saying versus am I going to actually cultivate the courage to listen to what my body is asking for, is what it's demanding me for. I've had many clients I've worked with who have been at that $5,000 to $8,000 per month mark. So they've got the proven offer, like they know their basic level of sales skills. They have the offer. They know that it's converting. They know that it works. They've been in business for a fair few years. They're not new, but they're kind of painfully stalled there. Oh, we've got someone who's just entered. Hello, Lily. Welcome. You're an hour and 5 minutes in. Anyway, I did say I was going to lock the room, but anyway, she can catch the last 20 minutes. So the power of being painfully stalled at that $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 per month mark is quite excruciating for people. And I remember there was a time when I was like, painfully stalled at six figures. Like, come on, that's not really that bad. At least you're making $100,000 a year, but that's actually, it's not a huge amount of money, right? And when we're in business, we understand just because I'm making that doesn't mean I'm taking home that, right? When we can scale in a way that our body is a full body yes to, so we're not burning it down at every juncture, we're not sabotaging it. We know the strategy to work, unique to me. It has my fingerprint all over it. It is different to everyone else's. Just because you're a generator doesn't mean you scale the same way as another generator does. When you understand the specific nuances of what it looks like to build a business around your sacral, your business starts to feel so different. And imagine, right? Like you wake up in the morning, you check in with your sacral. What is feeling alive for me today? You probably have a list of things that you know you need to do, but you're going to like prioritize it based off what your sacral is saying yes to. You follow that impulse. You have a DM or someone that inquires about your work and you respond from curiosity, not from agenda, not from like attachment to the outcome. Or you get on a sales call and your body is totally grounded and relaxed and in its magnetic, open, present state. It's not running from the mind. You're not running a script. You're responding to what's there. You've got two people just having a conversation about a decision, one decision. It's not, we don't need to load it in with so much extra information or not information, so much extra like meaning, right? We can put so much meaning on it, often because we have a lot of hidden agendas associated with reaching our goals. I'm going to make $100,000 and I'm going to finally feel worthy. I'm going to finally feel successful. That's a story for another day. They ask about the price and you state it cleanly and clearly. And there's no like wobble, right? It's embodied in your sacral. It's embodied in your soma. You're fully connected to the power of your work. You've up-leveled it. You've created your program based on your sacral yes. And so you understand that for the best fit client, this is a powerful, life-changing experience. If they say they need to think about it, you can work with them through that. You don't need to draw on any kind of NLP techniques or anything like that. Your business starts to feel like it is in alignment. It is in alignment with you, with your truth. And if you've ever actually built a business that isn't in alignment with your truth, you'll feel the difference. You don't want to scale a business that doesn't feel like you. You will even though you might consciously say that, you will sabotage it. You will burn it down because it's not really you. And who's been in that friction before? I know I certainly have. I've been there for a long time, watching what other people are doing and being like, I got to do it like that. That's working for them. So I'm going to do it like that. Not coming back to the truth of my sacral. So let's just take a breath. I know there's been, Kirsty Fisher's been trying to join. Sorry, Kirsty Fisher. I thought I saw you earlier. So let's just take a breath and let all of this land. My intention for today is that it is a sacral activation. and that it gives you a series of steps that you can take to activate and re-engage your sacral back into your business, and a series of things you can weave into your sales strategy so that it is unique to you, so that it works, so that it flies. My clients shift from $5,000 to $8,000. They usually come to me at that bracket, and we get them to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 months in monthly recurring revenue. We get them there quickly, especially if they're a sacral being. We can move fast when you have the right strategy for you. That's why I would never say, take my template or my, tried and true method and you're going to receive the results. No, we need to create it for you specifically. So, as we're moving through this session today, you may be wondering, how can I take this and apply it in an ongoing way? You may be wondering, I know I need to level up my sales game. And at the end of the day, business is sales. Yes, there's so many more important aspects of it. But if you're not out there selling your work in a way that feels true for you, in a way that feels alive, that activates aliveness, that's rid of obligation, if you're not out there being your champion for your work, no one else is going to do it for you. You have to lead it. You have to lead the way first. Sales is the lifeblood of your business, and it's really important to create a strategy that is based off your human design. So I'd love for you to feel into the timeline of 20 to 30K months that feel completely alive, and you selling from your sacral yes, not from your force, not from your not self, not from that last minute cortisol injection from your undefined root center, from a business that amplifies your aliveness, where you get to use your design as the strategy, not as just an intellectualized thing, like an intellectualized system that you haven't actually really landed in your body. And I'm going to be officially announcing a brand new program. That's very exciting for me. That is based in this work. I've been creating this body of work for the last 9 months, delving into it, applying it to myself, applying it to my clients. And that program is called the Sacral Sales Accelerator. And if it's okay with you, I'd love to share a little bit about it for the next 5 minutes before we move into some calls, some questions. So we're kicking off in November, and we're going for 3 months. It's a 3-month sprint.
I think.
Pardon? Oh, sorry. Oh, good. It is a 3-month sprint. And the biggest thing that I'm bringing in with this program is, so many of us believe that Christmas time, the end of the year, business goes dead. And that has not been my experience. And that's not been the experience of my clients. When you have a process in place to amplify your aliveness and to amplify your sacral magic and to amplify your creativity, and you know your voice codes, we haven't even spoken about that. We know that the particular way in which you are wired to speak and to magnetize through your Mercury gates, through the channels potentially that are connected from your throat to other centers, through the specific gates that are activated in your throat center. All of that comes together to form what I call your voice gates, which are very powerful. When we bring all of this together and apply it to our sales, in a very intensive container, an accelerated sprint, basically, massive things happen. We get a bunch of sacral beings together, and our goal is very big. Our goal is we have 8 entrepreneurs in this particular group, and we are calling in 20 to 30K months in a way that lights you up in 90 days. So I understand that's a very big, very bold, promise, but that's my intention for this, is that we're going to be up-leveling your program, your body of work, so that it is fully aligned and dialed into your sacral. We're going to be creating a whole new positioning for yourself in the marketplace that is where the maths actually works. So your 20 to 30K months actually happen based off the math, based off the offer. We're up-leveling your energy field. We're cultivating a whole new relationship with sales. And we're moving through this process of deconditioning all of the open and undefined centers. So sales is synonymous with fucking sexy, amazing, magic fun in your business. There were many years in my business when sales was not synonymous with that. So the first phase is phase 1. We're looking at Ignite. So this is selling from your design immediately. And the goal is $3,000 to $10,000 in extra revenue in the first 30 days. We're going to be unlocking your sacral as the most powerful sales engine in your business. We're going to be stripping back all of the things that you've said yes to that aren't really in alignment for you. We're going to be recalibrating your premium offer. If you have one, you will have one, ideally. If you don't have one and you still want to do this program, reach out to me, because there's something that I would love to offer you first to create your premium offer first. So this is really for people who are established in their business, who have a proven offer, but they want to scale it in a major way. We're going to be talking about objection alchemy, which is my process for deconditioning your open and undefined centers so that you can meet people's objections very powerfully, very cleanly. We're going to be rewiring how you show up in sales by anchoring back into your sacral process, into your authority, into your magnetism. Then phase 2, we're going to kick off our first 30-day sprint. So this program has 2 30-day sprints included, where we're going to be really like setting really big goals and creating really big results inside of our business. So phase 2, we kick off our first 30-day sprint. We're going to be working with your visibility by design. So this is your unique process for visibility that is coded by your human design, your voice gates, your sacral respondability. We're going to be activating all of that and designing a momentum that honors your natural design, that unlocks all of this power inside your body, and that actually takes it out there into conversion. I'm going to be sharing with you my story selling process that gets people onto sales calls in a very powerful way, so you don't feel like you're always pushing and hustling for people to jump on calls with you. And what's really powerful about this program is that we're going to be doing actual like sales call labs, where you're going to bring your sales call experiences, whether that's like, you know, your summation of them or whether that's actual parts that you've recorded. And we're going to be unpacking them. We're going to be learning what worked, what didn't work. How can we up level that process so that you actually can move people into a conversion easier? Sales calls, like when you get people onto a sales call and you have a process that works, that is really in alignment with you, it is the best way to convert people in larger ways. I went away from sales calls for a while, but I've since come back. For me, intimacy is really important. I love to be able to be on a call with someone to determine if they're a fit. And then by phase 3, this is sustainment. So we're converting and scaling by design. And this is where we're cultivating 30K reoccurring revenue months. And that's a big goal, 20 to 30K, reoccurring revenue. We're going to be doing that by creating a sacral sales engine that's in alignment with your design, where you can convert leads at volume, where you can unlock an expansion plan that keeps your sacral fully engaged through all of the ups and downs and all of the different, you know, parts of what it means to be a mani-gen or means to be a generator, dealing with generator plateaus and all of that. And you're going to be creating pipelines that magnetize people into your field and convert them in a way that is designed for your particular auric mechanics. So we kick all of that off in early November. For the next 48 hours, I have a $500 early bird special. If you would like to know more about the program, please shoot me a message on Messenger and I will send you through the prospectus and the curriculum. It finishes up at the end of January 2026. And our intention is that we've completely established you for next year so that you can scale in a way that is unlike anything you've ever experienced before, because you're scaling in alignment with your design, with an alignment with your uniqueness and your authenticity and your joy. And yeah, it's going to be great. Okay, so do we have any questions? I'm going to speak specifically to this question here from Jacqueline. Jacqueline, you're welcome to unmute your thing if you want. I'm actually going to put my fan on. Hopefully that won't be too loud. Is that really loud? No? Okay, good. Hello, feel free to unmute yourself, lovely. It's great to meet you. I've been seeing your stuff on social media for ages.
Yes, it's good to put a voice to the face that we see on
Yes.
Facebook. It's really nice.
So good. So is this your chart? You have no active gates?
Yeah, I have no, there are no active gates, nothing filled in. It's completely open. And yeah. And then I also have an undefined, I think it's the heart and the G center. So they're all undefined, but my throat center is completely open. And that has always, I've had a query about that as far as sales go.
Yeah. So firstly, when it comes to purely open centers, I like to think of them as, they can be like our mini portals to God, basically. It's portals to the divine, because we're literally receiving at the highest, at the cleanest frequency, AKA, if you look at the definition in the gates, there's no, through the Gene Keys perspective, it's a good way to see it. There'll always be a shadow of that particular gate, and there'll always be the gift and the acidic frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a center that has no active gates at all, it means that you're receiving through other people, through the field at large, in a very clean way. When you're in a low frequency and you have an undefined center with some active gates there, it will run through the shadow of those gates, right? So I actually see that as being a really powerful thing, because do you channel? Do you do any kind of channeling, any kind of intuitive processing? Okay, I dare say my prediction would be that you would be doing it very naturally, very unconsciously. When you're in
very intuitive, yes.
Yeah.
I don't channel per se, but yeah.
Yeah. Would you consider yourself intuitive?
Yes, very.
Yeah. So you're plugging into the throat centers of other people around you, the definition there, and effectively, channeling things back to them, which in a sales call could be very powerful, right? Because you're plugging into the unspoken things. And
okay,
that makes sense.
Yeah, because I'll have so many people say, I've been around that, but I couldn't wrap words around it, or I couldn't articulate it, pull it in,
Yes.
But I've been feeling that way, or thinking that, or have thought that, whatever it is. So
that's the undefined or open center at large. Yeah. When it's working, when it's operating in its highest potential. The other thing that I would encourage you to do is look to your Mercury gates. So I will just do a quick share of my screen. One sec. Let me just pull it up and I'll show you what I mean. Okay. Here we go. So your Mercury gates, let's pop over here. Mercury, so down the left-hand and the right-hand column, we have all of these little symbols, right? And these symbols are, if you know astrology, you'll recognize these. They're related to the planets. Human design is very connected to astrology, but it's different to astrology at the same time. So, there'll be certain, every sign has 4 different gates included in it because there's 4 weeks in the month, right? So I would look to for example, this person here, this is the Mercury symbol. It kind of looks like a little devil with the horns at the top of its head. And Mercury is the planet of communication. So if you have an undefined or a purely open throat center, it doesn't mean that there's no activation in your throat. It just means that you're receiving through your throat rather than transmitting. And you can work that in a really powerful way through your sales systems by asking people questions and getting there and then responding based off the questions that light up your sacral. So you could look, so you could look to so for example, this is the unconscious Mercury. It's gate 12. This wouldn't be the case for you because 12 is in the throat center. But
mine is 39.3.
So 39.3, okie dokie. So where is our 39? Some of them I know off the top of my head because my clients, let's see, I thought it was down here. Oh, yeah, it is down here. 39 is in the root center. See? 39 down here. So gate 39, I would be researching that and understanding. I'm pretty sure it's the gate of the warrior. I'd have to double check. Understanding what the shadow is, what the gift is, the expression. Do you have any active channels? Does this connect with another channel in your chart, or is it a hanging gate?
No, the only active channel I have in my entire, I have 2, but I have 5432.
Yeah.
And I have 59.6.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
But those are the only complete ones. Otherwise, 39 isn't complete.
Yeah. So look to your Mercury gates and understand, it's a great practice to do. How does this, I personally find the Gene Keys interpretation of the gates is a little bit more accessible, makes it a little bit more applicable. So read the chapter in the book or look it up online, look at the shadow, understand how the shadow plays out in your message, in your business, look at the gift. And you've got 2. So there's the undefined, the unconscious, and then there's the conscious as well. And then see how those particular frequencies show up for you in your message. I'd be very curious to hear what comes up for you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
pleasure.
It's made a whole lot of sense. I appreciate that.
Excellent. Good to hear. Now let me come over to the other questions. 59 is my pearl. Yes, Anik, I know that about you. Can you share a little more about the generator plateau? Okay. Generator plateau is a bit of a phenomenon for the generator. Let me just pop back over here. It is a phenomenon where basically if you think of like a scale, so the energy is going up, it plateaus, it goes up again, it plateaus, it goes up again. That's often how the generator actually functions. And it's primarily because even though the sacral is recharging on a consistent basis, you can't like run your sacral forever, especially if you're doing work that isn't really super exciting or aligned, right? Like if you're doing work that lights up a generator, then that sacral will naturally recharge and regenerate. That aliveness force will regenerate and recharge. But if you're doing work that is like obligation-based or strategies or an element of the work is obligation-based, then that can actually show up with like by a manufactured generator plateau. But basically it's what happens when the generator needs to reboot and recharge and re-engage the sacral. And for some generators, it can last a day or an hour or a week. But for some people, they can be in a plateau for a long time, particularly if they haven't yet understood the work that lights up their satisfaction. So work for a generator is very important, as I flagged earlier, but it has to be work that is enlivening, right? Not work that is detracting or depleting. It has to be enlivening. And so it might be that you love the work that you do, but then there's like certain aspects of it that you don't really love, that you've been trying to work, but it's not really working, that can deplete the sacral. So the sacral center can still be depleted, can still go through a burnout scenario, but it might not necessarily be, it's like different to a projector burnout, for example, but a generator burnout can still happen. And sometimes that can happen and coincide with the plateau as well. But sometimes it's just the very natural, process of regenerating. The really important thing is that you don't tip into, if you're in the process of a plateau, is to not jump up into your head and make stories about it, right? And make big decisions that potentially you would not have made if you hadn't have realized that you are at a plateau and that plateau is going to come to an end. Does that make sense, Nicole? Okay, beautiful. I think you're doing that. It's gone. Okay, good. All righty. How do you use this information and profile to define when and what you do for short and long-term goals? Michelle, that's a great question. Where are you? I haven't even seen you today. Oh, your camera's off. Are you still there? You can unmute yourself if you want, or just write yes. Hello. Great to see you. Can you hear me? Have we got you? Okay, I don't think your audio is working. That's all right. So basically, it's all about sacral yes, right? Now, remind me, Michelle, are you a generator or a manifesting generator? I think you're a generator from memory. Yes, you are. Okay. So being really clear about, for the sustainability of the generator, when you're doing things that you really love, you can access great sustainability, really great. Like there is a lot of consistency energy in that for the generator. Manifesting generators can be a little different, as we've spoken, with the non-linear jumping here, there, and everywhere. We can be our own different kettle of fish. But making sure that for you, when it comes to creating, when it comes to planning long-term goals, one more thing, are you an emotional authority or a sacral? Just pop it in.
Tash, I don't think Rochelle is here anymore.
No, Michelle's here.
Oh, I can't see her.
Yeah, I'm looking at her. Hi.
Oh, good.
Okay, sacral. Okay, cool. So that makes it probably a little bit easier for you. You don't need to move through the emotional wave like an emotional authority would. But basically, it's very simple. Do I have aliveness for this? Do I have energy for this? Do I have magnetism for this? Is this turning my body on? if I'm projecting forward and the visions that I'm creating, am I creating it from a sacral yes, or am I creating it from a not self, from a low frequency? Am I creating it from, wound patterns? Am I creating it from wanting to fill something up inside of me that maybe feels empty? Am I doing it from congruent, clean, sacral yes energy? And then we're planning based on that. And we're checking in as we go, because sometimes, just because I was a sacral yes to something, and I've had to navigate this quite a lot, just because I was a yes to something back then doesn't mean I might be a yes to something now. So then how do I powerfully but cleanly communicate that, right, to the people that I've involved inside of my decision-making matrix? For manifesting generators, the informing piece is very important. We haven't really spoken about that today. But it all comes down to the fact that your throat center is connected to a motor. So letting people know what you're going to do before you do it is like, if you don't do that, that's where the anger bit comes in, right? Because people can often get really angry because they don't understand you. I know I've gone off topic a little bit here, Michelle, right? Because most people don't understand other manifesting generators. They think that we're crazy and really don't make any sense. So if we don't bring in the informing piece, that's when the anger shows up in our environment. It might be from us, but it often is from other people as well. So yeah, it's really about making sure, and yeah, so you've got the split definition, right angle cross of penetration. That's a really powerful incarnation cross. But doing a regular check-in and audit, am I still sacrally engaged for this thing that I'm doing? Does it turn my body on, or do I feel like I have to manufacture energy, aliveness, not really true aliveness if it's manufactured, excitement? Yeah. Does that make sense? Did you want to unmute or pop any other questions in there? How do I see you guys better? Hang on a sec. There it is. One sec. I'm going to put you all on gallery view. There we go. Oh, there's your faces. Does the anger thing turn up for generators? Not classically. I mean, obviously it can, but this is more the flag, like the red flag for the manifesting generator. So for the generator, it's frustration. That's the red flag to know you're misaligned with something. For the manifesting generator, it's frustration and anger. And I've come to learn that it's often not anger from within yourself, or that it can be. Sometimes it's anger in your field around you as well. Do you have any other questions? You're feeling pretty good? No, it's been quite intensive. Okay. All righty. Well, thank you for being here today. It has been so fun. I can talk about this stuff, until the cows come home. So I'm so grateful that you've all been here today. I really hope that it's given you some really practical and insightful tools to work with and understand your human design chart better, more deeply, so that it really lands. And for those of you that want to come on the Sacral Sales Accelerator journey, it's going to be a really amazing experience. I am holding the vision of you guys cultivating 20 to 30K months in monthly reoccurring revenue by the end of January next year. I know that's a really big goal, a big promise, a big vision. Yeah, I'll send you a link, Jacqueline. But that is what we are doing. It is done. It is done. It is done. No more scrambling. No more burning it down. No more like manufacturing last minute enthusiasm. Like, let's create an amazing business that flows and that functions well. All right. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to message me on Messenger. Messenger's easier for me than email. Sometimes I miss them. All righty, loves. Take care. Woo! See you later. No worries, Kirsty. Bye.